was optimistic in September, but by October I was out of the loft. And I remember a wise man once told me that all hope can never be lost, 'cause a blind squirrel finds its own acorn every once in a little while. So you gotta keep smiling. It's the Brosuv Fantasy Podcast tonight. Brosuv Fantasy, yeah, you know it's gonna be alright. It's the Brosuv Fantasy Podcast tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Brosuv Fantasy Football Podcast. It's July 9th, 2020. Have a lot going on tonight. Actually, the triumvirate met over the past weekend, decided on some rules, caused a little bit of controversy. We'll talk about that. We also have a very special guest today. And, before we start, I'd like to just give a shout out to our sponsor, Phil Trzynski's Original Mattress Factory. Look, man, your girlfriend's going to leave you. You're on a twin bed. She's sick of sleeping on the twin bed. She's fallen off the bed in the morning. You need a new mattress. She's going to leave you for Brad. He's got a job at the bank. He has a full. You're screwed. What you need to do is go down to the Original Mattress Factory. Don't go to Mattress Firm, okay? You go to Mattress Firm. There's one right across the street. It's a front for drugs. We all know Mattress Firm is front for drugs. Don't go there. Go to Phil Trzynski's Original Mattress Factory and don't lose your girlfriend. Those are your only choices. Now, I'd like to welcome, as always, our guest, Ryan Ghilani. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Connor.
And Ryan Hartz. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, Connor. How's it going?
Great, and I'm glad to be here. And we have a very special guest. He's been talked about a lot in the first few podcasts. Hailing from Chicago, Illinois, as you can see behind him, an unbelievable scene. One of the most original and most wild card players in the league, I'd say. Kevin Noone, welcome to the pod.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's great to have you here.
We got three time zones represented today. It's kind of crazy.
We do.
3 time zones. I've been pretty successful, but I can't even offer
3 championships.
I can't account for any of them. I think there's 3, but 3 people here, 3 championships. I have 0. So.
Well, I'm
Good
in
change.
the same boat.
So does Connor.
Change.
Yeah, so it's fun.
Yeah. Well, this silly game that we play and that we put our lives into and that we live and die with is a game that can change any given day, any given week. As we know, Ryan Hartz has 2 championships, and he can hardly tell his asshole from a hole in the ground. So, just to get started, Nooner, I think I kind of sung your praises a little bit on the pod. I think that you're one of the players who's had really strong drafts, but for one reason or another hasn't climbed to the top of that mountain. Wondering where you see yourself in the league. Are you an up and comer? Are you a perennial disappointment? Are you, where are you?
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting question. I was prepping for this. I was thinking about it, and numbers don't lie. I've put up points. I probably have a top 5 overall record. It may even be higher. I think someone clicked those stats. But
Let me stop you right there. I'm going to jump in and say, over the past 5 years, you have 39 wins, which is number 1 in the league. That's why you're the first guest to be here that has not won a squirrel. 39 and 26 in 5 years.
And it's all about timing. And so, but where I stand, I mean, I'm always going to contend. I'm always going to be competing. I always put in the research, and fantasy football just runs in this family. My dad's been playing since the early 90s. He's been around. So I've got a lot going for me. I think at any moment, any season, I can come out victorious. And then, what's crazy is the second I get that first championship, we have to start talking about it as one of the better owners of the league in history. It's just that one monument that's holding me back, I would say. So.
Yeah. Well, so to that point, so you've had all this success that you're saying, but why? Yeah. What's the one thing that you can attribute to why you haven't got that squirrel yet? Is there something you can say?
Honestly, my memory's not great, so I'm just gonna say like what I what I remember happening. I think I've historically have had some injuries, as we all have, so I can't really lean on that too much. I think I've had some like boomer bust guys, which is a big one. And then I've had some trades, but funny enough, those trades, it's not as if like I was negatively impacted. Like I don't think I ever really had too bad of a hit. It's just the guys I happen to give away all of a sudden go off. And I think consistency in players, like there's a debate to be had. If you get a guy who's going to throw up 12 points in our historical scoring every week, he may be more valuable than a guy who drops 30 one week and 5 another. And I don't know. I can't point to a stat. I feel like I've had a lot of those guys. And when it comes to the playoffs, if you get 2 of your stars, dropping a collective 15 points, even though they average like 25, 30 every week, you're going to run into some trouble. So attribute it to luck? I'm not sure. Does
it discourage you from making trades, wanting to make trades? Like, is it making you think maybe I should just stay back and not make trades, or
no, not at all.
You think you just need to?
But at the same time, maybe every time I've made a trade, it's actually because I've had a wealth of players. I was benching like 3 or 4 guys that would start on other teams, and so I'm infamous for going for like the 2 for 1. I'll get 2 pretty good guys for 1 stellar guy. The problem is that 1 stellar guy, if he has a bad week, it doesn't matter. But no, trading's fun. I think trading's really fun. It sparks a lot of good conversation. A little bit of chess. I like to time zones. Like if there's a guy that I watch a lot, or he happens to be on, the broadcast here in Chicago, I'll grab them, or a team I like. I don't draft Bengals, Ravens, or Browns, so that's
I could hurt you here and there, but
not really though. That's the best
but
part.
I understand it.
Yeah, but no, trading's fun. I always go for it. What's like trading historically has always happened in an airport, because I used to travel a lot for work. I remember on Thursdays I'd like crush fantasy football in the airport. I had to have at least gotten like 3 or 4 trades done at the airport historically.
Yeah, Nooner, I actually remember on a Thursday, maybe like week 2 or 3 last year, you offered, and this, I mean, if I would have taken this trade, it would have totally changed my season. You offered Aaron Jones for Tyler Boyd,
Cool.
and it was like 10 minutes before the game started, and I went back and forth, and
I vaguely remember that.
Didn't happen, and luckily for you, it didn't. But
I eventually did, though. You're sparking it, because I did trade him
to Pat.
And he just threw up a bunch of like multiple touchdown games with.
Yeah, he was a top 5 back.
Career.
Yeah, he would have helped to have on the roster. Yeah.
But so in your defense, though, I mean, you had an interesting draft strategy last year. Out of your first 6 picks, you had 5 running backs: Alvin Kamara, Leonard Fournette, Aaron Jones, Tevin Coleman, and Tariq Cohen in the first 6 picks. So in your defense, at that point in time, when you traded Aaron Jones, he was probably the worst of all of those guys. It's very unfortunate that he went off for like 40 points a couple weeks.
Fournette got hurt, Coleman got hurt, and then Jones like racked up a bunch of like 60-yard, 3 touchdown games.
Yep.
Which I'm so bitter about those stat lines. I hate stat lines with low yardage and high touchdowns. It's the worst.
Yep.
But it's the game. It's the game.
Right. It is.
Wow, Tariq Cohen. That's a guy that I don't normally draft. I don't love that type of player in fantasy football, running back that relies on catches. But recently I've been trying to spark interest in Chicago sports. And so don't be surprised if I draft a bear or 2 come draft day this year.
The thing with Tariq Cohen is like
Nick Foles, baby.
He's never going to give you a 0. You're always going to get some points out of a guy like Tariq Cohen. Last year, the least amount of points he had last year was 2.4 in a game.
Yeah, but like, he's always tough to start though, because his floor is pretty low. Like you're right, he's never gonna grab a 0, but he's like in that 2 to 7 range most weeks until he goes off for like 30. But
Yeah.
It's like playing the stock market. You can't.
Interesting strategy though. In the first year where we played 3 wide receivers and a flex. Talk to me a little bit about going heavy running back so early.
Yeah, it's funny. That must have been why I was trying to go for Tyler Boyd. I definitely was hurting at wide receiver. I don't know. I mean, like, I talked about Coleman getting hurt, Fournette getting hurt. Like in the NFL, running backs get hurt, and they also are not a commodity. Like they, salary ranges can try to reflect that, but like good running backs, especially fantasy football, are hard to come by. And so, yeah, I just went for it. I also don't remember specifically, but I have to imagine I probably went best available often. But I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I just like kind of goes back to trading, 2 for 1. I like going after like, being a guy that can supply a running back. Probably thinking that maybe I can turn one into a really good wide receiver at some point during the year.
But Noone, you always go running back heavy. I feel like that's a theme for you.
I do. I usually try to go running back heavy, squeeze in like one really reliable wide receiver historically around those, couple of running backs.
Allen Robinson last year.
Fair, yeah. He was really good. He was really good.
Yeah, he was
actually,
good.
Yeah.
Number 12 wide receiver. Corey Davis.
Sucked.
Ted Ginn was another draft pick.
Corey Davis is always supposed to be good. It is never good. It's so funny. He's always supposed to be. He's supposed to be good every year.
So how about this one? After the 5 running backs that you picked, your 6th running back in the 10th round was LaShawn McCoy, who ended up being pretty serviceable as your 6th running back pick. Pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, not bad.
Nooner, you mentioned that you come from a fantasy football family, and I'd love to hear like a little story about this because I know a little bit about your dad's league. It's wild, it's crazy. I'm curious what league or what year they started the league. Like, how far does it go back? Like, what's the origin story there?
I wish I could give you more detail. The origin story, though, is really my dad and my uncle started up this league. I want to say it was in the 90s, early 90s. I don't know. But what's like, I reckon, like, Labor Day soccer tournaments, we always, for those who played soccer, we always had them. My dad would be in the hotel room on the phone drafting, trying to fit that in. But yeah, I think it was just like for sports buffs around that time, like guys who like getting together, drinking, hanging out. It was just like a popular thing, and they jumped right on it. My dad I think he's like the Steelers of that league. He has maybe the most Super Bowls. He's done a very good job. But yeah, they were in the age of USA Today box scores, calling them into my uncle's basement. Like you'd have to call your score in to
you had to look it up in the paper.
You look up in the paper.
All your scores are calculated in the paper. Weird.
Convert it, yeah. And so their transition to online, like most boomers, has been an interesting one to follow. I try to help them when I can, but like most everything, trying to help boomers, they got a way of their own. But it's been fun. They have the craziest scoring. I've tried like trolling the league, trying to get us going on it. Maybe the reason to blame, we're going with 2 QBs, planting that seed. But yeah, I mean, it's wild. They're my fantasy league supporter. And actually this Saturday, so they try getting the kids involved for, my dad and my uncle. We probably for the last 10 years have done what we call our Sea Isle City League. And it's their scoring. And we draft at the beach every year. Not during a global pandemic. We'll do it over the phone, but it's happening this Saturday. So pretty excited. Pretty good.
Love that.
That's awesome.
The one thing that I think is the coolest about those old timer leagues and like those, the guys that did it before internet was around is the scoring. Is that, you like talk to different people and just because there was nothing established, so they just kind of made their own rules up and they just made up what was cool, right, at the time. And like my dad played in a league that was, pen and paper, and it's just different rules that you're like, why would you even have it that way? But that's just how they felt that it made sense at the time.
Yeah, there was no standard scoring. It was like whatever anyone thought.
Yep.
Do you have any idea? Can you give us a little idea of what the scoring is?
If you guys give me 30 seconds, I bet you I have the rules because I tried setting up an Excel spreadsheet for them at one point in time to help out with.
Well, while you're looking that up, has since your dad is a champion and you're not, has he tried to give you any advice ahead of draft day or anything?
We have this. It's a big bond of ours. We certainly talk a lot, and all right, I got it here. And we like kind of throw back ideas in terms of drafting, but honestly, the scoring is so much different that it's really tough. It's really tough. So you guys ready for this? I got it in front of me. I'm going to go through it. I think the scoring is interesting, but also the starting lineups is also interesting. So here we go. For passing,
yep.
There's a lot coming here, so just be patient. For passing, completions are 1 point, yards are 1 point, TDs are 50. Interceptions, -20. You know what? This is a little bit of a secret. I think we adjusted this for this one site we use. So I'm going to skip over these next ones, but they have crazy bonuses where like if you go over 200 yards, you get another 100 points. For receiving, receptions over 10 yards, you get 3 points for every yard, 50 for every TD.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're throwing up like 1,000 point, 2,000 point games.
I feel like at that point though, it's hard to even figure out when you're having a good day or like where you're even at. Like you're just like, oh, I could at the 1 yard and I now have 500 more points. It seems like just like I'm about to win, and then you're just like 2 seconds later, you're like, oh, I'm down by 150.
That actually happens all the time. Like you're waiting for that bonus. And bonuses will win games.
Oh, yeah.
I love the mantra is like scoring points is fun, right? I love that. I love increasing scoring, finding ways to do that. I think that we would be wise to follow the same directions as your father's league. I mean, and to your point, Hartz, like I get what you're saying, but at the same time, they've probably been playing for 30 years, so like, it's probably a little bit easier to.
Yeah, normalize it. They know what they're expecting.
Right.
One other thing about their league that I really like is they distribute money really well, and I know that like when you win, it's fun to get that paycheck, but I have zero intentions of stopping anytime soon. So like getting a little money every year versus getting a lot of money 1 year. Is pretty cool, and like it's not like they're just giving it away. They give it away for specific reasons. Like the toilet bowl champion gets some money, a whole bunch of stuff, and I think it's fun because like
their entry fee isn't $100 though, is it?
It's lower. Or no, it's probably right around 100. I don't know, but
really?
Here's the thing though.
It's hard to distribute money when it's that low.
This is the big one. So every waiver pickup is $10. So every time you pick up,
I like it. I don't like $10.
That's really wild.
That's something that I had brought up before, and I like 50 cents or $1. I want Fab to be real money.
I definitely want Fab to be real money.
I think it'd be really fun, and I think
that we should add that.
I think it's really fun, but at the same time, it's not something I push too hard because I respect But
you can lose the max of 100.
We've talked about increasing the buy-in, though. That's been a topic on conversation before. Is just increasing the buy-in in general. Where do you fall on that?
Again, like. I don't have too strong of an opinion. It's a slippery slope because if we increase it this year, like, again, I have no intention of stopping. So, like, when are we happy? 5 years from now, are we increasing it again? That's kind of why I like the waiver system, not only there's allow for like a different type of funding. It's like an optional increase as well. But every year the pool of money can be a little bit different, which is kind of exciting.
Right. Even if you put that pool of money to like the high points, like if you just assign that pool of money to something and still keep your other, distributions the same.
It gives you a lot of flexibility while also not pressuring people who don't really like playing fantasy football to spend or win money, I think. Even though they'd be at a disadvantage, but that's, kind of their choices.
Do you think anybody in this league doesn't like playing fantasy football, though?
No. I think everyone likes playing fantasy football, but I think once you introduce the topic of money, I think their feeling on playing fantasy football maybe changes a little bit.
Because it's it's kind of a confidence type thing. Yeah,
confidence, but also like, I don't know, everyone likes spending their money different ways. So it's.
And if you don't feel like you're ever going to win, then why would you want to be putting up extra money?
Yeah, you can certainly look at it that way as well. Maybe they lack some confidence that they're going to get that money back. They don't look at it as an investment, more of a charity donation. But I don't think they'd say that, but there is an argument.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a large part of the league that I would agree with falls into that category.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. Ghilani's going to say that. Hartz is going to say that, like this typical bullshit.
Before you get too far, once you have one and you did get that chunk of money or like whatever, it does change the way you feel about it too, though. Yeah, you're going to say, like, but that is true.
There's no one in this league who can't win the league, okay?
I agree. I agree.
You've won the league twice with subpar teams.
I agree.
Anything can happen.
Last year's team was incredible.
So, the fact that you act like you won a fucking Nobel Prize. Oh, congrats! You won the league a couple times. Good for you. You're no position to gatekeep.
Trying to do there. All I'm trying to say is that it changes your perspective a little bit when you feel it.
You're like the Ravens.
Right?
Like when you win, you actually kind of suck. It just so happens that everyone else sucks, and you win. I mean, you won, but you're also the Ravens. So it's,
I was thinking more like the Giants.
That's also apt.
Yeah.
Although you never have to beat anyone, like somehow your path always clears. You never have to beat anyone.
No, that's not true. That is not true. I always beat the best team.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that. That could be a good comparison.
Yeah.
On the money note, I want to add what bothers me, and you guys may disagree, but I hate daily fantasy. I hate it, and I think it actually, it like, once it was introduced, I think it kind of, maybe we'll see what happens over time, but everyone was obsessed with it because, everyone loves gambling, but I think it changes the way you approach fantasy football a little bit. All of a sudden you got people who like have a good weekend thinking they're fantasy football experts, but we all started doing this because it was actually fun to be in a league and like follow your team. I got major beef with daily fantasy football.
You feel like it affects our league though?
So the reason I thought about it is because
we're not daily.
Yeah. In my head, I was like, there better not be anyone who doesn't want to increase our league fee, but then also participating every week in daily fantasy. That's what made me think about it. I don't like it. I think it's at the end of the day, like 99% of the people don't make money off that, and
it's the same people that win it every time. The same few.
But at the same time, like I like
algorithms and shit that are computerized entries and shit. It's dumb.
Yeah, I guess.
But what about best ball? Or is it called best ball? There's
best
a thing where
you do draft and there's no.
Do these little drafts. Yeah, you do these little drafts, right? And you pick players, and then you just let it go for the season. And, is that any different? You think that? Because that's not.
I don't get that. Isn't that what we do or no?
Well, no. In best ball, you have a draft, and then there's no roster moves at all. They'll automatically take your top scorers to put in your starting lineup. And I mean, I don't think anyone.
They have them each week too.
But then what do I do?
They have like weekly ones.
That sounds pretty stupid.
What do I do like when I'm at work on the shitter and like tweaking my lineup?
Right.
Totally.
You can't. There's no tweakage.
Yeah.
So I would like to increase the buy-in, but if you do, I think that you have to change the way that we're paying out, make more ways to make money, And I feel like that would entice people to want to increase the buy-in. Additionally, I love the idea of the side pocket where you set aside maybe $20, $30 per person every single year, and that builds and builds and builds until somebody wins 2 times in a row. I love that.
But we used to do like didn't we do high points by week one year?
We did that
That
one
was kind
year.
of fun. I mean,
yeah, it was $5 a week, I think, and then
we can
That's
get
a lot of
creative.
admin, that's a lot of admin. You need a nice treasurer, accountant,
Well,
someone who.
here's a cool one: is you do the low points for the week pays the high points for the week $5.
Oh.
It's interesting.
Kind of fun.
Kind of fun though, because it's
Yeah.
just like you just don't like. Yeah, it kind of makes it so you just don't want to be the low points for the week, which you don't ever want to be. But it's kind of one of those little extra things. You're just like, and then everyone gets kind of make fun of you, the person $5 too.
Yeah. It's not awful.
It adds a little more money into it, yeah. But I don't know. I think there's ways to add money into it without having to necessarily, up the ante, I guess.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the waiver wire. I like that.
Yeah.
Noone, did you get a chance to see any of the scoring changes that were implemented?
I read through them. I don't remember them. But
The main one being Superflex.
I'm into Superflex. Yeah, I think it's really fun. I will certainly have to take a long thought on that one. It changes everything. Changes all the formulas on. There's a lot there. It's completely changes, the math of lineups and player values positionally wise, and it'll be fun. I think it's fun. I mean, quarterbacks think about all the matchups you've been Sunday night, Monday night. When you have a quarterback, it's so fun. No matter what, no matter how much you're down, those guys are touching the ball every time. They can scoop up 5 points, no problem. And so I think every quarterback should be in a lineup every week because it's fun. And I think that's probably what will happen, I imagine, with Superflex, but we'll see.
Yeah, and you know what? Why is the league so reactionary? Okay, I didn't vote for Superflex. Not to I don't know if that's against the rules to kind of tell how we all voted, but I think everyone knows I didn't vote for Superflex. But the fact that Superflex went through, is now I'm not losing sleep over it. It's there's a reactionary element to this league that doesn't want change, and every little thing, causes this crazy reaction. I mean, the game is fantasy football with 12 people who have been playing together for forever, really. What does it, at the end of the day, okay, maybe you didn't want Superflex, but at the end of the day, who cares?
Everyone's playing by the same rules.
Exactly.
You're still playing chess on draft day, trying to predict everything. So I don't know. And you also just don't know what's going to happen no matter what you read.
Yeah.
Let me. So I don't think this time it was necessarily that people were attacking the rule change, as they were attacking the
Person that
method
was
of how
trying
it
to
got
change the
changed.
rules.
No. Just the method. The method. Well, yeah, but the method of how it was changed, and that there wasn't. The people didn't feel like they had a say in the change, right? Because everyone is playing by the same rules. To go back to your argument of, it shouldn't matter because everyone's playing by the same rules. Well, if everyone's playing by the same rules, then why shouldn't everyone have a say in the same rules?
Let me take this.
That's all it is.
Because last summer, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm not trying to say woe is me or any of that shit. But here's the reality of what happened. I went through a process in which I put forward many, many rule changes, and I created an online forum for everyone to comment on the rule changes. I created a Google sheet so everyone could look at all the rule changes explained. I created a form so that everyone could vote on the rule changes. And what happened? Everyone voted. They didn't look at anything. They didn't discuss anything. Then after the vote, everyone complained. So the reality is, the system now is better. You may poo-poo, cry, whatever.
Debatable, whatever. I know it's debatable.
Last summer was madness. All the effort went into it, and only for everyone to complain about things they fucking voted for. There's no good way to do it. This is the best way to do it.
I
think that also that time they were complaining that they didn't have the right options they didn't have all the options that they thought. Like we did a vote, but we didn't have. It wasn't like it was vote on this, or this, and there wasn't like it wasn't expanded upon in certain things. And
there were sections
and it was a great try. Yeah, I know, but when it's a vote, what's a comment do?
Yeah, but
so it's a great try. I think that it needs to be an open discussion, okay, and then like we did, and then just have a vote.
That's okay. So we're having an open discussion now.
Right.
That's what we're doing. But and then we're having the vote between the three people because every time we do any kind of vote, it's split right.
That's not right.
And it's probably a lot of trolling from certain members of the league when they complain about stuff, like especially last summer, like complaining about like how the process went. There's probably a lot of trolling, but like that doesn't change the fact that it's really an annoying process when there's always like people that are hating, you know?
Yeah, like certain people put zero effort into it. Others put a lot of effort into it, but then it's those who put zero effort into it who have the biggest problem with the outcome. That's always the worst.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I speak up and I say a lot of shit and I troll and I do that, but I think that I try to be as involved as possible the whole process, not just after the fact. But that's you know what I mean. I can't make everyone be involved in a group me setting that is so far out in advance in that we just randomly popped it up at that one time and not everyone was there to discuss it. It's just the people that were on group me at the time were the ones discussing it, and then it gets into an argument, and then it's like 500 messages long, and no one even wants to read it anymore.
Yeah.
I think everybody has gotten their say in on every issue that we've ever had. I mean, if you tell me an issue, tell me about an issue, and I can tell you how almost every person stands on that issue just based on group me conversations.
That's the problem.
Why?
Hold on, I want to.
You think you know everyone's stance already?
No, I do know everybody's stance because I know what everybody says to me all the time.
Oh my god! Right, just because they're trolling you.
Let Noone say.
Yeah, I want to get away from this. On the same note, so originally when we asked like why everyone had a problem with it, I deep down, so if you change the format away from some of these popular websites, like preparing and not looking like an idiot all of a sudden becomes a lot harder. And I'm wondering, so like fantasy.
Yeah, I love it.
Fantasy pros and all that, like obviously magazines have been around forever, but I think within the last like 3 to 5 years, it's really spiked. Like internet has really matured. So it's been very easy. You've got things on Reddit like beer sheets and all that. Like, will we see a trend of leagues where the scoring is so ridiculous that like you have to prepare your own like sheet again? That's actually one of the reasons why my dad has had so much success historically, is because he has taken time to like create his own scoring, his own list of players. It's not just like readily available for everyone. So I kind of like that, but at the same time, I'm pretty busy right now. I don't actually have time to put together that list. So I'm a little, I don't know how to feel about it
Me either. And Noone, I feel there.
We're doing that though. We're not doing that though. You implemented a 2 quarterback flex thing that's everyone.
Yeah,
that's what everyone's doing. You're trying to claim that we didn't do that. We just didn't do that. You can't stand up. You can't stand up and parade around for something that didn't happen.
No, listen.
I've been trying to get this done for 5 years. I'm just glad it happened now.
Listen, I hear what you're saying, Noone, but
he was saying make it different than anyone else. We didn't make it different than anyone else. All we did is add
So
we have
to
everybody else.
rankings.
I want to make our league different than everybody else. I
Let's
want
make it our own league then.
The super flex was a compromise.
Why don't we have a discussion where we just change the rules completely?
I would love that, Ryan.
The reality
we're on the same team
rankings
here.
are readily available, but I don't think anyone is printing out rankings based on our scoring structure or whatever the hell it is and going straight by the rankings. everyone has players they like and dislike, and people are jockeying and players fall. And I mean, I know every year, this is why I'm not mock drafting this year. Every year I mock draft, I fall in love with guys who I think I might be able to get, and I end up, just like with no flexibility. It's like, I feel like people like guys, they get into guys, they want to reach for these guys, they want to do this, that. I don't think anyone is, except for maybe Pat Mahar, who's had a lot of success, is just going like, these are my rankings, best player available. I just don't think
he's very against the change, I believe. Ghilani, is that true? You would know, maybe. You just said you would know, at least.
About being against the change of Superflex. Yes, Pat was against the change of Superflex.
Yeah.
Also, I'll say that in the last 2 years, Pat was really good because A, he got that really good Aaron Jones pick from you, and B, he had a really lucky Patrick Mahomes pick really late. Well, not lucky, just maybe extra valuable.
And I would like to say, Pat, if you're watching, go suck a dick.
Yeah, suck a big one, for sure. Maybe Donald. I don't know.
Missed it.
That's
But yeah, I would be interested in sitting down and having like a full, like, just make up our own shit, make up our own league.
Me too.
Cool. I think that'd be cool.
I would love that.
I'm going with
I would
that.
love that. I want to differentiate
against
our
it.
league from every other league. That's been a goal of mine. I think that everybody knows that. I want to differentiate our league.
Maybe
So Superflex to me is a little win. It's a little win. It's one win. It's hard to get wins in this league for Ghilani, but it's a little win. So I think we're on the right path to differentiating ourselves. But I could not agree with more with every point that Noone said. There's so many more podcasts and lists and power rankings that you could literally just go on and just click on the highest player and like do pretty okay based on all the information that's available. And adding strategy.
It's not just drafting. Also, it's actually who you start and who you don't start. Which
totally.
Is also
which is out there too. And I think that just any time that you can add additional strategy to the league is a good thing. Every single time.
Maybe one year we experiment and we kind of like the Champions League draw. We have like A through F buckets, and each one is like points per catch, and then it's 10 that comes out. Could be kind of fun. Maybe a side league. I don't know. I will set it up. If someone wants to, that'd be cool. I'd try it out.
Sounds wild.
One more point to the scoring thing is that I guess the reason why I'm kind of like against the quarterback thing, the new rules, is that we just keep changing little changes. Like, I think that we've all been together for 10 years now. Like, if we're gonna make changes, we might as well just make the change, and then so that we can get used to it.
Some consistency would be
nice. The league.
Yeah, I agree.
Say it again.
We're on the same team.
Would be nice. It would be
I feel like every year we're trying to change. We're like, why don't we just make the change? We sit down and we scrub out like a new league, whatever, figure out what we want to do, and stick with that.
Because there are those in this league that are very averse to change.
Yeah, I'll follow your lead, Hartz.
Change.
Let's get some proposals going on.
I love it. I love it.
I haven't really necessarily sat down and thought about it, but like I feel like just making little changes here and there doesn't really do anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
The only thing it does is just creates more strategy, but I don't know if it's necessarily more strategy or if it's more uncertainty with everybody.
I have a hot take.
Get in the groove.
I have a hot take I'd like to put forward, and you probably won't agree, but the most radical thing you can do in fantasy football in 2020 is just do a standard scoring league. 1 quarterback, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 tight end, 1 flex, 1 defense, 1 kicker. Great standard. It's the most radical thing you can do.
Throw it back.
I'm not against it. I'm just more I'd rather just have the consistency. Like, it doesn't matter necessarily what even the rules are, because we're all playing by the same rules, like we said. I just want to have something that's that we can figure out and keep getting better.
I'm changing it up every year.
The reason we're making changes is because hopefully 10 years down the road we find something we all like and we won't be changing anymore. But right now we're in a period of experimentation. We were a standard league for 10 years, whatever. We tried a couple things last year. We'll try a couple things this year. I mean, at some point we're going to find something that works for everyone and we're going to stay with it.
Right.
Hopefully it's good.
There was a period of time where we didn't actually change anything. It's only recent.
Yeah, those were what you call the glory days, I think.
I think we had to change it. I think we had to change him because Honhart kept winning too much.
Nah, I mean, look, standard was fun in its own way, but I am not against experimenting, and it is what it is. Let's break away from the rule talk a little bit. Let's see. We've asked every guest some certain questions, Noone, and I was wondering, you've had a lot of guys on your team over the course of the last decade or whatever. Do you have a favorite fantasy football player of all time that you've had on your team?
Oh, shit. That's a great question. I don't even know. Because I mentioned earlier my memory is weak, so I can't even really go back more than like 2 years.
Yeah, I feel like you had Lenny. I don't know why this just popped up. I think you had Lenny Fournette his rookie year when he was really, really good, didn't you?
Yeah, it's possible. He really screwed me this year, though.
I thought Lenny burned him twice, to be honest.
He did.
Yeah, could be.
No, he did, because this is the second time I went with him, and he burned me. Although this year, I think it was the first time I drafted him was more injury-based, like year-long. This year it was like he couldn't stay 100% healthy. I don't know. I've always actually really liked Gronk, and I don't know if I actually had him. And I don't even know.
I think you had him involved in a pretty big trade, didn't you? Or was that Connor? That might have been Connor. That won Honhart the championship? Was that
Yeah,
Noone?
it was Connor and Honhart.
Yeah, we've never talked about that before.
I had Gronk 1 year in my whole life.
I seriously thought it was Noone. I'm sorry. I apologize.
In the first round, and then I traded him later, and that was the year that I won the blind squirrel. So I love Gronk.
Did you trade to me?
I might have. Yeah, for Tevin Coleman. I gave him to you in a package deal for Tevin Coleman and Carlos Hyde.
Maybe.
Sounds right.
Sounds right.
Because I had Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, and Carlos Hyde were my running backs that year. Tom Brady, somebody else, but that was the only year I ever had Gronk, and I traded him and I won. So I love Gronk. I love the Gronk. Thank you.
Yeah,
I've only had Gronk like once, but there's always like
it would be pretty cool if like we could go on ESPN and like look back at all our history, on the league.
What happened to that?
I don't know, but it would be really helpful for people like me who have bad memories to be able to like go back and read what had happened and.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually an ESPN problem. It's actually an ESPN problem more than anything else because they used to keep very detailed information about the leagues, and then a couple years ago, anyway, all you can see is the draft. No, I'm serious. All you can see is, the draft, and then you can see who got first, second, they don't keep any information.
They used to have box scores week to week.
Yeah. It's I mean, ESPN we've been using it forever. I don't dislike it, but that really annoyed me. The fact that they just got rid of all this old league info that really, I mean, for a league like ours that has a storied and deep history, it takes away something when you can't go back and look. I mean,
and
is that true?
They probably did it for cost, but what's funny is they didn't even explore the alternative option. Like, would we have spent money to have kept history and maybe gotten a few features?
I would pay to go back and have Ghilani not delete it. Yeah, for
sure. There's no payment option. It's not even there's a payment model where you get all this stuff. There's not. It's all free as far as I know.
It's so confusing, actually.
But for the amount of people that play ESPN fantasy football and for the amount of leagues that there are and the amount of time that it's been on there, you would think that it would be better. Right? There's really not good research. There's not good stat keeping. There's really nothing great about it, and it hasn't evolved in a really long time.
Well,
I
there's probably
think-
not a full-time ESPN employee responsible for the actual fantasy football platform. They probably outsource it all. So,
Yeah, you're probably right. But my point is the point that I'm trying to get to is that we should maybe look around for another platform to play on, even if it is something that's paid. And we'll probably all pay $5-10, whatever. But if it has the advantage of the extra research, the stats, I want stats. I'm a stat man. I need some
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah,
And ESPN
you know,
doesn't have any stats.
there's my fantasy league.
ESPN stopped putting money towards their fantasy platform so they could pay Matthew Berry $30 million a year to dispel shoddy advice, right, Ghilani?
What
Is
a
that what he
hack.
makes?
No, I'm just kidding. He makes a
But, like, is he
lot
making
of money though.
Yeah, but they're all they none of them know anything more than you guys.
Definitely so,
None of
though,
them.
because we all know him and everyone reads his
You think-
articles every week. So.
You think Barry makes millions?
Oh yeah.
Millions, dude,
Oh,
tens
yeah.
of millions.
And you know what? Like I find him to be like a
Crazy, dude.
funny, enjoyable guy, but like
Yeah.
he definitely does not grind as hard as other people. And I mean
Nope.
maybe good for him. He's reached the top. He's just coasting now. But like, I mean, you can if you're serious about fantasy football, you're not going to TMR, unfortunately.
Right.
Or anybody.
You're just not.
That's why I go straight to Field Yates.
You probably are a Field Yates guy, aren't you?
Big Field Yates guy.
I just don't like that name.
I would say if
That's like a
anybody on
weird
that
name.
show, he's probably the best one.
Nah, Stefania Bell.
Best for a different reason.
You would.
I'm just saying, fantasy football expert in general. I feel like you're a real big Field Yates kind of guy.
Well, you know, I just basically go on Hani's Twitter and see who he's following. And then I just,
Tony
follow
Fontenot.
Hani's falling off though. That's probably why you haven't won.
Tawny or Tawny? I'm talking about Tawny right now. Tawny, if you're out there listening, hit me up.
yeah, Phil.
Yeah,
hit
Tony.
him up.
I appreciate your
The fix is
involvement, Tawny. We appreciate you.
Obviously, that's a joke.
The fix is in. Nooner. There's
Noone probably doesn't even know who Tawny is.
What?
Noone probably doesn't even know who Tawny is.
I don't know.
No one knows who Tawny is. It's ridiculous.
Tawny is a
Well,
fake Twitter
you probably-
account that was created by the creator of Rod's Twitter
Oh,
account.
I love
That's
Rob.
no. Don't start peddling fake news. But the
So
interesting
we
thing is,
think.
based on the tweeting that's been going on between the two, there's a romantic relationship happening between Tawny and Rod. It's like ridiculous. And I'd say
You're just gonna call Tawny out like that? I feel like it's,
I'd say that
is that your
that
place?
Rod's a good guy. Like I like him, but he's out kicking his coverage. Let's just say that.
I don't know. She seems to be taking advantage of his state right now after that tough
After his
divorce that he went
What
through
does
and
she
everything.
have to?
Seems
What
like
does she have to gain? Rod lives in like a 1-bedroom apartment. Like he's
Pretty
got
sure he owns a
nothing going
vineyard.
for him.
I'm pretty sure he owns a vineyard somewhere.
Rod's obviously got some money. Rod is always sipping
Yeah.
on $100 bottles of wine. If we're being honest, Rod has money. We know this. I don't know about Tawny though.
He might, right. He might be a what's that?
She could have money soon if this love thing works out.
Yeah, I guess
I
that's
mean,
true. Maybe
look,
they're just a power couple. Who knows?
Rod's wife left him last year. You know, he had a tough summer. I mean, go back and look at the tweets. He was going through it. He seems to be in a better place now. He's happy. I mean, let's just give him, you know, whatever makes him happy is fine with me.
Dude, I got one more question for you. So, besides yourself, of any person currently in the No Squirrel Mafia, who do you think has the best chance of winning the league?
Oh, can I get that list? Do you have that readily available?
It's everybody that's not named Ryan or Gino or Pat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you got Corey,
Ricky.
Andrew, Ricky,
Connor.
myself,
Ghilani.
you, and Moch.
He said
can't
not
pick
me,
you.
right?
Can't
I
pick
couldn't
you.
pick me.
Can't pick you.
Huh. I'm not gonna. So it's gonna be more fun if I don't pick Connor. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Everyone else has picked me, so my ego's satiated.
Oh, okay.
Inexplicably picked Connor. Sorry, let me add that little asterisk in there.
I actually think I would go with Michelin.
Ooh.
How could you say something
Why?
so controversial and so brave?
I don't know. Part of me thinks he's had pretty good teams over the past couple of years, but they're they're top
just
and
not
they peak too early. Like he has really good first half of the seasons, but then I don't know what happens. Could be missing.
He has trouble moving off of
It's
players.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He's
so,
Michelin- Michelin has the third best record over the last 5 years: 36, 28, and 1.
I have 3 more than him.
3
Who's
more than
second?
Hartz.
How is that even possible?
Makes a lot of sense. But I was actually really thinking about this question a lot lately, just for some reason. And I think I give it to Ricky, right? Because I give the defense that like the people that put in the most time and pay attention the most usually have the better chance of winning. And Ricky, of anybody, puts the most time in. You know, he's waking up at 4:30 to pick up players and shit. Like he's involved.
We gotta get rid of that rule. That rule's so lame.
He also,
I
we
agree.
did get rid of it. We did get rid of it, didn't we?
Oh, okay, good.
With the fab.
No, we didn't.
But I mean, kind of with the fab. You just have to bid money.
No,
Yeah, but that's what he does. He jumps on after, so he doesn't have to bid any money, and he gets the people that people don't get to bid on.
A little bit of dollars.
Because we can't put $0 bids in. That's the solve.
Ricky
But we
also
didn't
had
do
the
that.
best season in fantasy history. One lost season. What was
I
that?
say besides Gotti. Gotti
we didn't,
was pretty good.
but he didn't win though.
Yeah, well,
Didn't
actually,
win it. Didn't win it.
the year Gotti won, actually, Hartz, even though we remember him as totally dominant, and I remember when the playoffs entered, everyone knew he was going to win, but he actually had 4 or 5 losses, I think.
Yeah.
The team was dominant. The team was like paper wise, the team was freaking incredible. It was so good. I can't even remember who it was at this point,
But he was like a 5 or 6 seed, I think.
Maybe. I don't know, the year Mahar won, his team was pretty solid too.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the year that Ricky lost. I think I beat Ricky,
Yeah.
and I think I actually won that year, maybe.
And then after that,
Good
he's
for you,
had like
fuckhead.
Adrian Peterson the year that he got suspended for the switch. He's had a pretty bad string. But even over the last 5 years, 34, 29, and 2. Fifth place.
Yeah, I mean,
Connor always hating. Just accept it, Connor. Move on.
I'm not hating. It's just like, would this pod be possible if every 2 seconds Ghilani or Hartz wasn't like, oh yeah, that's the year that I won. Yeah, I won. Do you know that I won? I won before. I won. If you didn't know that, I won.
It comes back to you have a different perspective once you've won. So
I don't even notice it. I don't even notice it as a thing. So it must be like something that losers
exactly.
feel.
No, yeah. When you win, it changes your perspective. Yeah, it just totally
That's what I'm
changes how you
saying.
view the world, and you become an insufferable asshole. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Hey.
Exactly.
It's okay. I love you guys, but
Sorry, I lost my earbuds, but I don't think that winning is what did that to me. So.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you've always been a little cocky.
Oh,
There it goes, mic drop.
See ya. Well, I don't know. We've been going for probably an hour. This is probably a good time to settle up.
He's back.
He's back.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is, me winning, I don't think made me the insufferable asshole. I think it's just me. So
At least you're honest. That's good.
yeah, that's all you gotta say there.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as parting words, there are just a few things I wanted to say. One, of course, Noone, thanks for coming on. Your insights are much enjoyed, because I feel like in the group chat, you pop in, you pop out. You're not like most of the other guys who are constantly chatting. So it's nice to hear your thoughts on the state of the league. Second thing of note, we're actually doing Pick Your Pick on Saturday at Hartz's homestead. we may or may not be recording kind of like an impromptu podcast type thing.
Is this backwards?
And there's
it's just a little blurry.
There's
wait,
Ghilani giving you a look at the.
You're number 2, Noone.
Okay.
So you're locked into the second pick, but we'll see if there
so
won't
we'll
be some
call
fireworks.
We'll call you and get your pick.
So be on the lookout for that.
What time do you think?
I don't know, but we'll make sure everyone's going to be available. We won't do anything too crazy. Hart, did you have any idea on the timing there?
Well, so I was thinking anytime after 5, I was inviting people over. So
Yeah.
we'll
probably get it. We'll probably get it done in the evening.
I'll be out and about, but about that time I'll be chilling. So.
And you know what? The PYP should take 15 minutes. I mean, everyone should really have an idea of where they want to go, and I don't think it'll be too much of a shake-up, which actually brings us.
This is way better because last year I remember picking my pick from a conference room in the Aon Center at work. So this will be
Well,
another good thing is that Gotti is last, so he won't hold this up for 18 hours.
That's great.
Great.
Gotti's last. Do you always work out of the Aon building, Noone?
Yeah, it's actually right.
That's where my company is.
Right there, I think. Right here. But yeah,
Is that it?
I'm never going back there. Global pandemic.
Yeah, I stayed in the hotel next to it and walked under a little bridge to get to it. Pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Pretty cool little deal. Nice. Building's nice.
Yep. So so beyond that housekeeping, we're gonna have a guest as to be determined in a couple weeks for you. We're hoping football happens. As of now, I think NFL looks better than college, but hey, God bless you. Stay safe. Be smart. Wear a mask and don't be a jagoff.
Yeah. Right.
Do you think that NFL happens this year, Noone? I feel like we asked last pod, so.
Yeah, I don't know if it happens. It will be happening in an empty Soldier Field here in Illinois because a vaccine needs to be created before that amount of people can get together. So we'll see. I don't know. MLS just kicked back off. Go Fire. First game was canceled though because Nashville had to drop out because they got the COVID. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were supposed to play last night. Times are crazy, guys.
Are the Fire still one of the worst teams in the league, or are they picking
So they we're now, so they're back in Soldier Field. They basically cleaned house, new manager, new front office, new owner, made a lot of interesting signings. So who knows? They might make some noise here in this tournament. But
good.
Yeah, I hope
it happens.
If not, I kind of like Gaudy's idea of having like random competitions on Sundays. Yeah. We'll make the best of it no matter what. You got to in these times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the alternative?
Exactly.
Right.
Alrighty. Cheers. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Thanks for seeing you.
Ghilani Hartz, any parting words of wisdom?
No,
not really.
I'm just thank you, Noone. Good to see you, buddy. Miss you. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. I know Illinois is one of the areas that's getting a little hit harder than most, so stay safe, you and yours, and
of course,
you all too.
Yep.
Take it easy.
All right.
Cheers.
Seeing you guys. Take it easy.